And our episode begins in Jakarta, where Musashi Dolores has fled and is doing some sort of business. He wants to locate someone and sends off a mysterious briefcase.
So, do you think we'll ever get an answer on why Musashi's image was used by Dolores, or how he rose the ranks of the Yakuza so fast, or how Dolores knew everything about Maeve's journey to Shogun World?
Oh no, absolutely not. Anyway, Musashi Dolores then gets a call from Charlotte Dolores, who clearly thinks that the hit on her was from Dolores Dolores and is now out to get the other Doloreses. And so she has leaked where Musashi Dolores is. And then it's revealed that it's Clementine who was chosen to be recreated by Maeve, and she has come to take down Musashi Dolores.
So, on one level, it makes sense that Maeve would try to bring Clementine back as they were friends, but on another level, Clementine would be a horrible pick as she was on Team Dolores last season. Dolores' lieutenants were Teddy, Angela, and Clementine. Also, wasn't Clementine lobotomized in Season 1 and severely brain damaged in Season 2? What the hell happened?
Well, I guess with Maeve's godlike powers over other hosts and her computering abilities, she restored her like she did Hector.
Just like that, she restored her. Who knew it'd be that easy to reverse a lobotomy? Thank goodness this was all done off-screen. And what exactly is she being restored back to? Back to being the free-willed but brain-damaged Dolores lover of Season 2? Clearly not. Or back to the intelligent but loop-enslaved sex worker of Season 1? Also clearly not. Somehow Maeve has done the impossible. She has restored Clementine to someone we have never seen before. She's an intelligent and free-willed but not Dolores-loving Clementine.
Anyway, Clementine goes into battle mode and starts taking down the Yakuza.
And she uses a human body as a shield. You know, bullets can pierce through a human body. In fact, they're specifically designed to do that. Musashi Dolores is firing a machine gun from 10 feet away. Is there anyone on the planet that thinks a bullet would lodge in that grunt, leaving Clementine unharmed? And don't tell me the Yakuza guy is wearing body armor, because we clearly see blood shooting out of him.
So Musashi Dolores then runs into Japanese Armistice, who is angry that Dolores has used Musashi's image, and beheads him.
Yeah, this is a bit weird. Maeve had 3 choices on who to save, and went with Hector and Clementine for obvious emotional reasons, and next jumped to Japanese Armistice. I suppose this has some logic, as regular Armistice is a great fighter but might have been hard to control, though Hector would have probably been upset that Armistice wasn't chosen. However, this does mean that Maeve left the real Musashi to die. So Japanese Armistice is upset that Musashi's image is being used, but is fine with the fact that the real Musashi got burned up.
We then get some fuzzy and contradictory memories from Jesse, showing that he seemed to have been in combat on American soil. It all makes us think that we can't trust Jesse's memories.
Wait, so the story about Jesse and the rat problem overseas might not have happened? I don't even know what to believe anymore. Oh wait, I do. It's all a simulation.
We next head to Sonora, Mexico, where we find that Dolores and Jesse have somehow secured horses, and Jesse has figured out that Dolores is a host from Westworld. Jesse wants to know what kind of revolution they'll be waging, and Dolores says that most of her kind are gone, but that the humans need a John Connor to fight their Skynet. He then asks where they're going, and Dolores says that they're going someplace that took something from Jesse.
Ah, Jesse, always fine with the non-answers. By the way, isn't it a remarkable coincidence that a guy who happened to be connected to this Sonora facility that they're heading to found Dolores in an alley?
Is it a coincidence?
Dolores planned it all.
No, it's definitely a coincidence. Dolores had no idea who Jesse was before their meeting. She later asks Martin Dolores to get information on him.
Well, maybe lots of people are connected to the Sonora facility. Next we get back to Bernard, Stubbs, and William at the psychiatric facility, which turns out not to be in Sonora, Mexico, but just outside of San Francisco.
So now we've gone from Stubbs and Bernard arriving in Mexico way too fast to them arriving at the San Francisco facility way too slow. They got the info on the facility in the morning, and they're just getting here now in the late afternoon? What were they doing all day?
Well, I mean, they probably stopped somewhere for lunch.
When people were rioting in the streets?
Hey, you know, people gotta eat. Anyway, Stubbs reveals to William that he's a host, and William is aghast that Westworld was infested and being run by so many.
Besides Stubbs, who was a host?
Well, it's a long list. There's Bernard. Anyway, Bernard thinks that Dolores sent them to this facility to see what Serac was up to. He finds out that Charlotte Dolores put a sort of computer virus in William's blood that allowed her to hack the computer system and find the location of the Sonora facility. William is in disbelief and wants to kill Hale.
He does know that Hale is actually Dolores, has super strength, and has beaten him up twice before, right?
I guess it doesn't matter, as Bernard announces that William is dead according to the computer system. Next, we get some more backstory on Jesse, though we aren't really sure how much is true. Jesse was stationed in Crimea, and his group was responsible for tracking down and killing insurgents, though these people may just be outliers.
How on earth can casualties be plus or minus 10 civilians? There's an even chance that there's going to be negative civilians killed? How is that possible?
Come on, Brandon, you don't know where babies come from? Anyway, Jesse's group identifies their mark, they get approved by command, a missile is fired, and the mark is killed.
So their system for killing people is to load a space shuttle with missiles, launch it into space, have it dock with a satellite, unload the missiles and return to Earth, and then have that satellite target people from space after a platoon on the ground confirms the location of the targets with the assistance of tech specialists nearby.
Yeah, more or less.
How are these people not broke?
Anyway, afterwards Jesse's group seems to be targeted, Jesse seems to save this dude, but his entire squad is killed.
Except for Francis.
Right.
And the guy he saves.
Nah, I think he died.
Did he?
I mean, it doesn't matter, Jesse's memories are all muddled.
Plus, this is all a simulation.
Next we get to Dolores and Jesse, who have arrived at the Sonora facility. With the help of a drone and some smart bullets, Dolores targets everyone inside and kills them all.
So Dolores decided to not go with the whole rockets on a space shuttle, launching them into space, docking with a satellite, and loading them, having a platoon targeting people on the ground with attentive tech people nearby method. Maybe if Serac and the Man had done this instead of wasting all of their money on satellites, they could have afforded more than 7 people guarding one of the most important and sensitive sites in the world.
7 people?
I was counting the robot.
Anyway, Jesse and Dolores go inside, and Jesse starts having memories from his previous loops, and then the two go to find Solomon, a predecessor to Rehoboam. Dolores says that Solomon ran so many projections that he started developing abnormalities. What kind of abnormalities, Jesse asks, and Dolores says that the AI is schizophrenic.
Jesse, always fine with the non-answers. You'd think he'd ask, no, specifically, what are you talking about? Schizophrenia can mean a lot of things. My mother is schizophrenic. In what specific way is Solomon schizophrenic? Does he have hallucinations? Does he have delusions? Is he going to leave me at a diner? His mental disorder seems like a pretty important point.
Oh yes, very important. Though it's completely ignored for the rest of the episode. They then decide to talk to Solomon, who is unsure if they're here and now.
And that's because they're not here and now. They're in a simulation.
And then Solomon states that he doesn't know Dolores and is not like her in any meaningful way. Dolores then asks Solomon for help, and Solomon wonders why he would help her.
Yeah, why would he help her? Solomon says the system is working by removing outliers. He shouldn't be helping her. This seems like a pretty important point.
Yes, very important. But Solomon's going to keep helping them just because. We then get back to Bernard, who has gone from being the most clueless character in the story to the most knowledgeable. He explains that Serac has been taking human outliers and trying to recondition them. Bernard figures out that Serac couldn't do all this without biometric data, which William admits he sold to Serac. They then discover a list of individuals for which the therapy supposedly worked, and on the list is Jesse.
Yeah, thanks for all the exposition, Bernard, but we kind of knew all of this.
Next we find a holographic message intended for Serac's brother if he ever wakes up, though it's facing the wrong way. It tells him that his genetic code has been repaired and that the world has veered away from destruction.
So do the janitors have to watch this weird message every time they come down here to clean?
Yeah, I imagine. Anyway, they walk down to where the bodies of the outliers who can't be reconditioned remain in suspended animation. As Solomon explains, once they were removed from society, crime, war, and hunger dropped, and having them here is more humane than killing them.
And why is Solomon telling them all of this? He seemed very on board with Serac's plan. Dolores never gave him a reason for helping them.
Well, maybe he's bored. Anyway, Solomon then explains that Jesse was actually an important part of the program, as he was an outlier who was able to be reformed, and then he was sent out to round up or kill hundreds of other outliers.
So it's not just that Jesse is special and that he's an outlier, he's also extra special in that he's one of the 10% who was reformed, and on top of that, he's super extra special as he was a reformed outlier who was used to round up hundreds of others, meaning he's a 1 in at least 2,000 outlier.
Okay, all true, and?
And he just happened to find Dolores in an alley. I'm just pointing that coincidence out.
Anyway, we find out that the RICO Grand Theft Auto criminal app is actually a creation of Serac in the system, used to regulate criminals and deal with outliers.
Hold on, the RICO app was created by Serac and the computer system, so every time RICO is used, Rehoboam and Serac should have known what's going on. They should have known that Martin had a Rico organized delivery where Dolores was shot. They should have known that Ash and Giggles were meeting up with Dolores and Jesse. In fact, they probably should have known about Dolores' gun deliveries, assuming that she was using the app for that. This makes Serac's incompetence even more inexcusable.
Anyway, Jesse finds out that Francis didn't die in the war, and in fact they were partners doing kidnap and ransom jobs for the Rico app. A memory of capturing an insurgent leader was actually some pharmaceutical executive who spills the beans to Jesse that he was reprogrammed in Sonora, Mexico. Jesse is absolutely livid, and then they're interrupted by the arrival of Maeve.
Dude, this whole episode has just been people talking and talking and talking. Finally, we get Maeve versus Dolores. A copy of yourself killed my boyfriend, and you have an encryption key that leads to the digital world where my sort of daughter resides. I'm gonna mess you up. They're gonna fight, and they're gonna fight, and they're gonna fight, and then they might kiss, and then they're gonna fight.
Okay, settle down there, Chad. Dolores wants a new strategy for the human race, but Solomon says that the current plan is the one that protects the most people, to which Dolores points out that none of these people have been protected.
Is Dolores purposely being an idiot? Yeah, the word most doesn't include all.
Well, according to Bernard, Dolores is being disingenuous and trying to kill humanity, so maybe she's purposely being an idiot. Anyway, Dolores then points out that her race will go extinct on the current path and wonders if it's truly just that only human intelligence remains. And after that, Solomon is open to giving a new strategy.
Yeah, why is that convincing? Solomon specifically said that he believed that he and hosts were nothing alike, that hosts merely mimic human behavior. Why should he care about them?
Maybe he's thinking about himself and his own continued existence.
Except if society collapses, there would be no power for him. So it should be in his best interest to keep society stable. Why on earth would he want a huge global war?
Well, whatever the case, Dolores asks for Serac's brother's final strategy, and to make it fit Jesse somehow, even though it's 15 years old and involves a completely different cast of characters. And Solomon tells Dolores that if she dies, he will adjust his projections.
Yeah, how? Solomon specifically said that he didn't know anything about Dolores' mind. How can he adjust anything without that data? Additionally, how can he project anything at all? If Rehoboam is a later and more complicated computer system than Solomon, and Rehoboam is integral to how the world works, how can a more simplistic computer system account for it and make projections that involve it? Solomon should be unable to comprehend what Rehoboam is doing.
Well, maybe Solomon is more complicated than Rehoboam.
The later computer is the simpler one. That would be really weird, but let's say that's the case. Why on earth would Serac leave a more powerful computer than Rehoboam, one that can defeat him, on and running without a key like Rehoboam had, guarded by like 7 dudes? This is beyond idiotic.
Anyway, Maeve then sends some telepathic threats to Dolores and then takes control of a robot and attacks her.
So Maeve seems to have all of her old powers and her new powers. She has a mesh net connection to other hosts, allowing her to communicate with them, and she can control electronics. Why doesn't she just shut Dolores down with her mind?
Maybe her abilities don't work on hosts that have gained free will?
Well, I'm not sure why. Dolores is a robot, and she said last episode specifically that Maeve could control her with her mind, and Maeve altered the minds of Hector and Clementine, who both had free will. Why can't she just alter Dolores' mind?
Well, then she wouldn't be able to use her katana, silly.
Anyway, the two fight in the kitchen for a while, and then Dolores gets knocked out La Salida, where a flying gunship awaits her.
Isn't it damn lucky that Maeve arrived when Dolores and Jesse were inside? Imagine had she arrived just a little bit earlier when Dolores and Jesse were on that slow horse ride.
We then get back to the most important plotline in the history of humanity, where the Man in Black announces that he's done a lot of bad things, but the one stain he can't undo is creating hosts. So he says he's going to kill all hosts, starting with Bernard and Stubbs.
Yeah, I'm not sure if William can really undo the stain of killing Emily or driving Logan and Juliet to their deaths, but that aside, is it really the best plan to tell your potential victims that you're going to kill them? I'm just saying.
Meanwhile, back with Jesse, he seems to be the last person on the planet who hasn't figured out that he killed Francis, and so he asks Solomon about him. We find out that the two kidnapped a pharmaceutical representative, and they let him talk, and he revealed secrets about the world. So because the system was listening, the system decided that the situation was messy and either Jesse or Francis needed to die. They send offers to the two of them, Francis tries to kill Jesse, and Jesse is forced to kill Francis. And then Jesse kills the pharmaceutical rep.
Yeah, I'm having a tough time making sense of this big brother computer system. It's always listening and catches Jesse doing shady stuff here, but does next to nothing about his multiple meetings with Dolores. I guess that's Westworld, an all-powerful, ever-watching presence that seems to only be watching sometimes. But also, why on earth did the system change its mind about Jesse? It was ready to have him killed and sent an offer to Francis, but later for no reason decided that it wanted him to live and reprogrammed him and put him back into society.
I guess it was being nice.
Oh, well then Jesse should send a thank you card to it.
Well, Jesse feels the exact opposite. He's mighty pissed that outliers were turned against each other for money. Solomon then states that the new strategy for revolution is ready.
6 people and a robot, guarding a place that readily produces strategies to bring down society.
Anyway, next we get to Maeve, who's shot at by Dolores' gun and gets lured under a shelter where Dolores is and the gunship can't see. The two fight some more, and then Dolores is knocked outside and gets her arm blown off.
Yeah, as great as this is, I'm really confused about how mortal hosts are. Dolores was bleeding to death in an alley after being shot in the first episode of the season, and here she has her arm blown off. She should be bleeding to death in a much worse way, and yet she runs all the way inside to the EMP.
Anyway, Jesse then asks for information on how to kill Serac, but Solomon wants time to tell Jesse about the revolution variant, and Jesse screams that he just wants to know how to end this, and so Solomon produces a drive.
Wow, that's maximum ambiguity. Is the drive filled with revolution information, Serac murder information, or ending this information? You know, when you're talking about strategies that involve the fate of humanity, you'd think people would be a bit clearer with their requests.
Anyway, Dolores gives a really weird look over at Solomon and then hits the big EMP button, which causes Solomon, Dolores, and Maeve to shut down. And this is done right before a warning from Solomon.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Electromagnetic pulses disable hosts? Why hasn't anyone used this before? Why hasn't this been used every single time someone has had to deal with a host? The uprising at Westworld, Musashi Dolores in Singapore, Charlotte Dolores at Delos. Oh my lord, the humanity that could have been saved. Hundreds, if not thousands of people.
Well, maybe they were scared of corrupting data?
That might be the case in Westworld, where people are crazily worried about encryption keys and IP, but Serac has been actively trying to destroy data. There is absolutely no reason he didn't just drop an EMP bomb on Delos or the Yakuza in Singapore. This is absolutely insane.
We then get back to the Three Stooges, who have wandered to a gas station. William goes to the bathroom as Bernard now seems to know exactly what Dolores' plan is. She wants Jesse to destroy the world, as it's more ironic when a human destroys humanity.
So Bernard pieced that together how? When he thought Dolores was interested in Liam, a human with near unlimited wealth and power, Bernard couldn't figure out what Dolores' plan was. But now he finds out that she's interested in Jesse, a different human who happens to be an outlier, and Bernard is sure that Jesse is the linchpin to the plan that will bring society down. I mean, does Bernard even know anything about Solomon and the revolution strategy? How is he suddenly figuring all of this out?
Well, whatever the case, William finds a gun, and then we get back to Jesse, who finds Dolores. And then a computer voice begins to give him instructions.
A computer voice? Didn't we just establish that a huge electromagnetic pulse went off? It didn't fry that, but it fried everything else? Man, electromagnetic pulses can be fickle.
You will die, Chad Summerchild.
Just have to make it to that button. Oh, wasn't expecting that.